Hi, friends. Welcome back to
Wish You Love Podcast.
I'm Jazmine.
And I'm Marilyn. And today is National Take a Chance Day.
And we thought it would be fun to kind of incorporate that in today's episode. Mm-hmm. So for today's opening question, we are jumping right into it. We want to know and have everyone reflect on what was one moment in your life that you took a chance on. Mm-hmm. Whether that be a moment, a person. We want to know. Reflect on it and comment below.
I have my answer, and it was definitely majoring in English. I literally took a chance. I've told this story a little bit before, but coming out of my community college, it was time to pick a major. And I had told you guys all I ever wanted to do was sing, and I knew I was good at teaching, so I was like, okay, let's be a K through 12 teacher. And so that is like just kind of a general subject major, I believe. And then it was a while ago at this point, but then I had to pick like a subject within the K through 12 teaching credential thing. And so I was like, well, I suck at math, and math goes with science. So it's either English or history. And I was like, well, if I want to get a job, there's more needed English teachers because everyone needs English and everyone needs math. So I chose English. Literally, that's how I chose my bachelor's. And then when I got to admit day, then they told me, because I told them, I think I want to be a K through 12 teacher, kindergarten, but I might want to work at a college. And they were like, you're going to want to work at a college. And I was like, oh, okay. Where do I go for that? And they're like, over there. And I literally went up to the booth. They're like, hi, this program is English Language and Linguistics. And I'm like, this is to be a professor? And they're like, well, yeah, the first step. I was like, okay, I'll change my major. Literally, that's just me taking a chance. Like, I didn't check much into it. It didn't take much convincing. And look at me now. An English professor. That was me really just as you can tell, it was very different than how I am now. I just really went with the flow in life because I really didn't care about much. Now I care too much. How would you answer this question, Jazmine?
All right. I feel like I've taken a chance on a couple of things, but I'm going to throw it back to when I was like 19, I think. 19 or 20. But I'm going to throw it back. I took a chance. One day I went to my local YMCA and I decided to go get a membership because that's where my mom, I was like 19. So I think I was like barely driving, but I was like, still doing things like with my parents and like they were paying for stuff. So I remember telling my mom, like, I want to get a gym membership. And she loves the YMCA because it's just, she likes the family feel of it. If any of you have gone or have one local to you, you'll know, you'll understand maybe. Mm-hmm. And so I remember going to the YMCA to get my membership. I think I was taking my photo and everything to just finalize everything. My mom was with me. And I remember bumping into someone that I used to dance with. So we weren't even on the same dance team. We were on two different schools, but we had danced together at a summer camp. And her name is Natalyn. I don't know if Natalyn listens to this, but if you do, or if you ever do, shout out to you, Natalyn. And I remember just bumping into Natalyn at the YMCA. She was working there, and it was like, oh my gosh, like, catch up, talk, like, how have you been? Like, what are you doing? Everything. And I just remember her telling me, like, do you want to be a dance teacher here at the YMCA? And I was like, whoa, I came here for a membership, and I'm walking out with, like, maybe a job or, like, an offer. And I was just like, I don't know. I'm already working. I was working as a server at that time. So I was like, I'm already working. I'm going to school. And she was like, again, like trying to convince me. She was like, well, it would only be like a couple days and you would work with kiddos from like the age of like, I think it was like 4, from 4 to like 10, I think. Different class groups. Yeah. And long story short, we were able to catch up. She told me all about it. And I don't know, something in me was just like, why not? Like, let me just take a chance. Like, I like to dance. At that time, I was also missing high school Jazmine, which danced on the team for 4 years. So I was like, this might be a good way for me to kind of still keep that part of my life in this, new chapter. And so I took the chance and I ended up working at the YMCA for about 4 years.
Yeah.
I don't regret it at all. Looking back into it, I loved all my kids and like the parents and just like seeing how excited they would get with the dances that I would teach or like the activities that we would do. And just, I'm really glad I took that chance and I went in with a membership. I went in with a mentality of just getting a membership and getting a workout. And I left with catching up with a friend, a job opportunity, and, you know, getting my workout.
It is so interesting how one life decision can change your life, right? Because it's such a small take a chance. Well, mine shouldn't have been a small take a chance that usually people think about what they were going to do for the next, at that time, 2 years. But it's interesting where it took us, you know, and I love that we made those decisions. They were good decisions, thankfully.
Yours is present to this day and mine is in my past, but both
grateful for.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that. All right, so I'm going to read the question of the day, and please comment down your quotes because our question is going to be relating with a quote. And Jazmine and I have so many quotes that we love. So this is just one that we want to share with you that is a good message because we have so many that we love and we always mention quotes within the podcast. So, but yes, take out your journals, write the quote down that you think you would use for this question. Okay. Okay. So the question is, find a quote that inspires you and write it down. What are some ways that you can carry out that quote in your own life? And Jazmine will answer this question first.
So we both really loved this prompt. We were like, ooh, we have to talk about this one on the podcast. So we're excited to share with you. Like Marilyn said, we struggled because we had so many that we wanted to share. So this is just one of them. And I went back to my Instagram. So I usually get stuff from my Instagram.
Oh, and please post your Instagram post on our story when this drops so they can refer back to it.
Yeah. So I had come across this saying on social media, and it said, stop asking people who have never been where you're going for directions.
Period.
So that is super simple, just like a small statement. However, I think it is so impactful and something that I think I can take on for the rest of my life. And I know that when I first came across it, I started to think about it. And basically what it means to me and why I really chose this specific one to share with you guys is because I love to share a lot about my life. I feel like I'm very social and I like to share with everyone around me. And I think Jazmine, I want to say like a year or two ago, was very all about just sharing and asking people for input and advice and thoughts on things. Until this quote became a little bit more relevant, and especially to this day, where I started to realize like you have to kind of pick and choose who you want to share certain things in life. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I have amazing, beautiful friends that each bring different things to the table and to my life. But I might not share the same thing with all of them anymore because some of them are just on different paths. And so going back to the analogy, if I know, I mean, Marilyn at this point came back from Florida, right? I don't think Marilyn would ask me for advice in terms of like what to do and what to eat at Walt Disney World because I went when I was a kid, but other than that, I don't really know much of it or whatnot, but I'm sure she probably asked maybe other friends who have been. And so that's just like an example in terms of like what you share about your life. Like be careful and cautious of who you share that with because not everyone is going the same direction or has been in that direction.
Period.
So I think that's something I really take into my life. I practice it. I now am a little bit more mindful. And again, no hate, all love is just really knowing who to say certain things and share certain parts of your life with and taking that from them. I also want to share, I know like Angel, kind of similar to this quote, he and I both listen to Jack Harlow. I don't know if anyone listens to Jack Harlow on here, but he had released a song recently and Angel loves that song. And now I love it too. And it relates to this quote. His song is, I think literally the name of the song is Stop Giving Me Advice. And it's like Jack Harlow's song. And he's basically stating this quote in the sense where like, you can't give me advice when you are not in the same mindset or direction that I'm in. And I just think that's something I wanted to share with you guys. So I hope you guys, kind of take the time to reflect on this. And again, stop asking people who have never been where you're going for directions.
I absolutely love that quote. I think it spoke to me. I hope it spoke to you. I've heard that quote before, and I have always loved it because it's so true. 2 examples. You wouldn't take a relationship advice from somebody who's in a toxic relationship. And people who are in toxic relationships have tried to give me advice, or like relationships that have failed or just not going well. And I'm like, wait, thanks, but please stop talking, because I don't really care what you have to say, because you're not a success story to me. That sounds so harsh, but it's just true. People give unwarranted advice. And if it's not good advice or not positive, it's especially important to remember that they're not going in the direction or have been in the direction that you're trying to go to. And then as well, like you were saying, the example of the Walt Disney World example, like I only ask for advice when it comes to being a professor from other people who are either in my MA program, so they're not teachers yet, but I value their opinion because they were in the same program as me, or that are teachers, or even better, like Anthony's mom that is a professor, or other, my bosses, my other peers that are professors. So it's like, I'm not going to ask advice from somebody who works in admin. Mm-hmm. Like, you have great advice, probably if I wanted to go into administration work, but not in classroom work. You don't know what that experience is like, unless that person just happened to be a professor in the past. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is, I agree with you. Like, when you ask for advice, unless somebody like Renee is my person that I can ask advice for at any part of my life, and she will give great advice, but it's because she knows me so well. But it's like, there's so little people that you can do that to. So it's important to be picky with who you ask advice for, and also remember their personality. Are they negative? Do they talk down on you? Are they low-key haters? It's important to remember, because sometimes somebody can say something to you and it like replays in your head. You're like, is that true? And it's not.
And I do want to add one thing as well. I think also take the time to think before you give advice to other people as well. Because sometimes, and I've done this before and I learned, because thankfully my friend communicated with me, not everyone is also going in the same direction as that you're going in, and maybe they don't even want to go in that direction. Maybe they're in a different direction, or maybe aren't even like, that's like the last thing on their mind.
Yeah.
And so I know, like me, for example, sharing this personal, back a couple years ago, one of my close girlfriends that I'm still close with, I will never forget this, because I really took it like to heart, and not in a bad way, like a good, like, thank you for sharing with me and like, let me do better type of thing. But I remember my friend, I think at the time she had dropped out of college or something. I think it was that. It was like she had dropped out of college. She was a little bit unsure of what she was going to do with life. And I've always been, you guys know this, Marilyn, you know this, I've always been the type to like, every like step, I have steps. I know what I'm doing. Like, okay, like I'm going to college, I'm graduating 4 years, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like, that's just me, how I was raised, how I am as a person. And so I will never forget having a lunch with her, and she had told, she shared with me that she had dropped out, that she wasn't sure if she was going to go back or if she was just going to like work, or what she wanted to do with life. And I know that my instinct right away was going to be, oh my gosh, no, you have to go back to school. Like, you're making a mistake. Like, and I was just going to give her my usual, like, how I think, right? Like ABC, like, you got to do this, you got to do that. But before I did that, I super appreciate the fact that she shared with me, like, Jazz, like, I love you, but I don't need, before you say anything to what I'm about to tell you, like, I would appreciate if you just listen. Like, I know the way you think, and I know I can already know and imagine what you're going to tell me, but XYZ she like shared with me. And so I really took that to heart, because I thanked her, like, wow, like, I don't want to be that friend who like gives you advice or tells you what to do if you're not even going in the direction that I'm going in, right? Mm-hmm. And so I share this because as you were talking about like who to share with, and how you have Renee, who's like that person that you could tell anything about, and who you can keep in mind in your circle, who to tell and what not to tell. Also keep in mind of your actions as well. Sometimes you don't have to give advice either. Just listen. If you are on the same pathway, if the person asks you for the advice, or if you truly are knowledgeable, like, you know this path, you've been there, done that, okay, by all means share it. But if not, stop giving them advice. It's okay.
I love that you said that. That is so, so true. And also, I think that it's something that we need to be reminded of in that scenario, but also if somebody does ask for advice, to just be very thoughtful with what you say, because they might really take your advice. So I hope it's good advice. All right. So I'm going to reread the question for me. So find a quote that inspires you and write it down. What are some ways that you can carry out that quote in your own life? So I love the motivational speaker, Les Brown. He is the one that said the quote, "It's not over until I win." Amazing. Love him. So I pretty much just looked up Les Brown quotes. Totally should do that if you're looking to journal for this question prompt on your own. He has so many amazing ones. But I wanted to kind of tag along to what Jazmine was saying. So the quote that went along with that was, "Don't let someone else's opinion of you become your reality." A lot of times people will give their opinion of you or say how they view you, but that doesn't make it true at all. That is their perception of you. And of course, it's always important to take criticism and, helpful comments, but sometimes people can be very hurtful with their words and say something about you that is 1,000% not true. And sometimes if you don't have that confidence or self-awareness of who you are and how you are, then you can let those words eat you up and become your reality. So for an example of when I did not let somebody's words, I did not believe it. I'm like, no, girl, like, you're not right with that. And I've even told like close people in my life what they have said. And I'll give you the word interesting. They've all like, what? That's the word they said that you are? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, you are everything but that. And I'm like, yeah. But it's interesting, and it's important to remember people have a certain perception of you based off of their own experiences, maybe their own insecurities, maybe they can't even understand why somebody like you is so nice. Maybe they can't even understand how you love or why you are the way they are. Some people can't even fathom why somebody would be like you, And so this person had said that, it's an interesting story. They had said because I was singing, we were sharing a hotel room, because I was singing, and I had asked them if it was okay if I practiced for a loved one's funeral. I was mourning and practicing for a funeral, very hard songs, Ave Maria and My Heart Will Go On. And I have OCD, so I do each song a certain amount of times. It's not too much, but she said that she thought I was only doing that to be obnoxious.
I remember.
Interesting choice of words. So me mourning and me singing for a loved one. And I remember I enclosed myself in the bathroom to be away and practice on my own. And I remember crying in between each song. And all you're thinking of is me being obnoxious. And if I didn't have self-awareness of myself and knowing who I am to the core, I could have let that become an adjective of who I am. But luckily, I do live by this quote, and I don't let other people's words create my reality. That is not true. I know that I'm a kind-hearted person. I know that I'm loving. I also know that I get hangry, which I am right now. I know my weaknesses and I know my strengths, but just because you say it doesn't make it true. So it's so important to not only be self-aware of your weaknesses or where you can better yourself, but also stand your ground when you know who you are. And when people say, oh, you're so selfish, and then all you think about is other people. That doesn't make it true just because you say it, my love. That's how you see me. That's not who I am. So that was a quote, and I'll repeat it one more time. So it's from Les Brown, and it says, don't let someone else's opinion of you become your reality. Because it is important if somebody keeps telling, you're dumb, you're dumb, you're dumb, you're dumb, and then you start saying it, I'm dumb, I'm not smart, I'm not capable. Don't let other people's words make it true for you. Don't let their opinions and what they think of you become your reality. No, I'm smart. No, I'm kind. I'm beautiful. Even if you're working on being kind or working on believing that you're beautiful, always affirmate those things for yourself. Don't let other people put you down or it doesn't matter what people think of you. It matters who you are and how you view yourself. Mm-hmm. I feel very passionate about that because, like I said, if I was a weaker person, if I was in a vulnerable state, it could have ate me up, but instead it was humorous.
No, I love it. And as you were about to share the story, I was like, I know which one you're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. And very, very true. I'm so glad that you kind of not necessarily brushed it off, because I know words have impact and it did impact you, but not enough to believe it.
No.
It was more like, humorous. Ouch, hurt. But you know what?
Actually, it wasn't even a hurt.
No.
It was more like, really? It said more about you than me, type of thing. Mm-hmm. But that's the only reason I told my close friends about it, was only because of how funny it was and how far off it was to who I am. Mm-hmm. And literally the reaction I had told you earlier was all my friends' reaction, what? Mm-hmm. And even one of my friends, my close friend, she will say that, yeah, Marilyn, you're so obnoxious. She'll say it now, and it's a joke, and we'll look at each other and we'll laugh because it's just a far off adjective of me. Mm-hmm. Obnoxious, my love. Mourning and and singing for somebody who's passed is not obnoxious. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be a dedication.
I love the fact that you mentioned that oftentimes when people say things about you, to you, or of you, you're so right. It often comes sometimes because of their own insecurities. Projection. Yeah, they're projecting that. And it is not true. And I love how very similar, the quote I chose to share and the quote that you chose to share, because it is just staying true to yourself and being mindful of what you're taking in and what you're giving out. And yeah, it made me think also of someone in my life who I will not share names because we'd never share names on this podcast.
Never. But it's all love, by the way.
Yes.
I just want to put a disclaimer, the person she's going to share, the person I share, this is all our just personal stories and our experiences that we want to share with you. And it's never to diss or go after somebody. It's just our life story. And so go ahead. Just want to do that disclaimer for you and I.
Yeah, no, and I love it. And it's so true. This is exactly why we named this podcast. Marilyn proposed the name above all else. We wish you love. Mm-hmm. So anytime that we share stories or sometimes tea of people that we don't name, yes, never in a bad way. But yeah, it made me think of a person in my life who happened to be in a sorority. If anyone's been in a sorority, you know how close things go around and how, it's like a domino. You can say something about a person. I don't know. I don't regret joining a sorority, but I know that it is a lot of drama-filled stuff. I usually tend to let it slide off because I know that girls are girls, especially when you're in a big group like that. Right. But I will share that at one point in my life, there was something that happened as well where someone in my life at that point had, I guess, just very, very much hate towards me and two other of my sorority sisters, and decided to go around and say things about us and say things and words that adjectives and words and stories that were not
to the president.
right.
She was the president.
Say things that were just not true. And like, honestly, for me, it was hurtful. Like, I was very sad to attend meetings or attend stuff in my sorority, and people had a different perspective of me. Because of this person and what they had said about my character and who I am, and the other two sisters that I had. And in this case, I share this because it made me think of your story, where that did impact me a lot. I was very sad in the sense where, like, I remember I had cried about it a little bit because this was after I graduated too, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, I was just your guys' president last year. And like, the people who were there with me, that I'm not like this, or that this is not true. But now, because this person is coming and saying things that are, awful things about me, and like painting this new narrative and story, you are now suddenly deciding to believe that story and like change your shift on like how you view me and what I am. But I share this because although it did impact me, going back to your quote, I decided to not let it affect me fully, in the sense where I decided to do what I thought was the most mature thing and just walk away. I walked away. I will never forget. I had cried to Angel, and Angel had also like advised me and telling me like, it's not worth it. You graduated. You don't need to deal with this. If these girls want to think things about you or want to like believe this rumor or this narrative of you and like who you are, like let it be. Like you left your everything that you could, your little legacy when you were there. The people that truly love you and like really know you for who you are, they're going to believe you and like not this. And so I will never forget walking into, it was a sorority meeting, and I literally just said, I'm stepping out. Like, this is it. Like, I said it very respectfully. I said, I know that there have been some things going around about myself or about me and like my character and like my other sisters, and I just don't want to deal with it. And so I am stepping away. You guys are not going to see me around anymore that much. I think I remember telling them, like, I'll always have a place for my sorority. I'm always going to have, like, good memories, and, like, I will never regret joining. But at this time, because of the situation, I got other things to worry about. I got to focus on, like, my job. I got to focus on, like, my relationship, my life. And so I just remember just saying, like, this is it. I'm stepping away. I wish you guys all good luck. If you guys ever need anything, you know where to find me. And yeah, and I stepped away. And I think that was my way of just, although it was impactful, although it did hurt me, although it affected how people like saw me or viewed me, the best way for me to just not truly let it consume me and me think like, am I really like this? Or, oh my gosh, people are thinking things about me like this. I just decided, I'm done. Like, bye. Like, that's it. And so I share that because, yes, years later now, we're talking like 2-3 years later, that person has tried contacting me to apologize for what they've done. And if you're listening to this, I hope you know I forgive you. I don't wish you any harm. Above all else, I wish you love. But it's done. It is what it is. But that did not impact me fully. And I was able to not let someone else's thoughts and someone else's opinions become my reality and let it affect me fully. So, 2 stories, kind of similar.
Yeah.
Just don't let it affect you. Whether that be just laughing about it and being like, okay, now it's a joke, or you just being like, just being like, I'm not going to take it to heart. I'm just going to step away. I'm going to walk away, and I'm going to just move forward with my life.
I think that this is such an important message, especially when you're in high school and middle school, because people always say stuff about you. So I hope if you're in middle school or high school, or if you know somebody who is in middle school or high school, please send them this podcast, because I know I could have benefited from this when I was around that age. And I just wanted to touch on some things that Jazmine said on her story. And I feel like the difference between mine and yours, because it was so similar and people just saying things about you, about your character that are not true. The difference is that I think for me, I don't think I cared about that person's opinion enough to let it hurt me, because it didn't hurt me. It was more comical. But for yours, you're like, I've known you for all this time. Why would these people think differently of me now? Like, it was a more hurtful situation. I feel like mine was more comical, but nonetheless, there were opinions that could have affected our reality, and we didn't let it. And then secondly, Madame President, like, why would you disrespect the last woman in office? Like, how dare you? Like, I want to have a talking to you about respect, because clearly you have none. Thirdly, I just wanted to share a quote actually from my best friend. And this was about, she gave me this quote for a whole different situation like a few months ago. And seriously, this quote actually changed how I perceived it. It was the same thing. So it was about like people telling a story that I am in, but leaving out the part where they did wrong type of thing. And she said, yeah, right, that happens. Like, it's horrible.
Been there, done that.
I tell the whole story. That's one thing about me, is I tell the whole story to my therapist, to my friends. I say the part, I said, if you like, I say the bad parts, and I say the parts where they done bad to me. Like, I say the whole story. I don't understand why people don't. But she said, Marilyn, if the people really believe that story, they're obviously not important people in your life, because the people who know you won't believe it. And it was actually true, because, somebody else in my life was like, Marilyn, we all know how that person is. Every time that she talks, we just laugh. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And then going back to that story, it's like every person I told that, obnoxious, they just laugh because they know me. So anybody who believes in the sorority, anybody who believed those false narratives, they were never important in the first place. They were never your confidant. They were never your partner in crime. They were never your true friend or true person in your life, because a true person would be like, that doesn't sound like Jazmine. You're talking about Marilyn? You know what I mean? Because if somebody were to tell me something about Jazmine, I'd be like, Jazmine Lopez? Like, who are you talking about? Like, it can't be her. You know what I mean? And you don't want to be dismissive to people's stories, because people will surprise you. But especially like people their character really well, be wary, because sometimes people like to make you switch up on another person.
Yeah. And eventually everything comes to the light, whether that's years later.
Always.
Or them seeing you on social media, like
you do
thriving and doing your own thing.
You be your positive light. You be good to people. You turn the cheek, and karma will always come back to you. It always does. Yeah.
And so I think both are just really good. Quotes. Again, another good episode. We're on, I think, a roll.
Yeah. This was I feel good about these.
Yeah.
Please share this episode with a friend if you feel that they need to hear it, especially if they're middle school or high school, because that is the time when girls, people, guys, it doesn't matter. Like, everybody's talking crap about everybody, and it's important to not let those words affect you, especially when you're a child. People get depressed. Sometimes people get suicidal about people's words and what they say about them. And it's so important to not let other people's opinions of you become your reality.
And definitely share this with anyone that you think, maybe someone who's going through it too. I was even thinking, like, this sometimes happens at work too, work gossip, or like things that like, this just happens in general in life. So share this share this with anyone. Mental health matters. Stop letting people's opinions affect your life. Stop asking people for directions. Stay true to yourself. And I hope this episode allows you to take those two concepts and like implement them into your life and continue to bloom this April and year and forever.
Yes. And thank you so much for watching this episode. And above all else,
we wish you love.
Bye, friends.